Speaking of migrants, I heard that there was some squatters over there in New York that was stuffing women in bags and then trying to squat on their property and take it over. This country is just going to absolute hell. Check it out, y'all. Thank you, Wealth Builder Journey.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and I do want to get to a developing story out of the New York City area where police are searching for a pair of squatters.
Read those super chats shortly.
Maybe
Thank you, baby.
tied to the murder of a woman. Her body found stuffed inside a duffel bag inside her apartment. Very disturbing details here. Briella Tomasetti with our Fox 5 New York team joining us live with what we know so far. Good morning, Briella.
Yeah, Josh, this case is more than a week old, but police are finally starting to sort out some of these details. Having just flown in from abroad, the 52-year-old victim, Nadia Vittel, stopped by her late mother's apartment here in Kips Bay. It's right here in my rear view. And she was getting it ready for a family friend to move in. Cops say, though, when she unexpectedly found those squatters inside, that's when things took a turn for the worse. The NYPD has new insight on who may be connected to the murder of a woman whose body was found stuffed inside a duffel bag in her Manhattan apartment. Investigators are looking for a pair of squatters, a man and a woman, who they believe were staying in the apartment prior to the gruesome discovery. Police say 52-year-old Nadia Vittel was last seen walking into her apartment building on East 31st Street in Kips Bay last Tuesday.
Hey, imagine being in Manhattan in New York, and you walk into your apartment, next thing you know, your people got to find you stuff in a duffel bag. How did they get you in a duffel bag? If y'all don't think that this migrant crisis is really affecting or is going to spill over into every single thing that we have, look, y'all thought it was just displacement of votes. It's not. It's not. We're creating an entirely new culture here in the United States. Hear me out. Hear me out. It's going to be an entirely new culture over here in the United States of America. I'm talking about displacement of votes. I'm talking about displacement of jobs, gangs, mindset, new towns, city, control, politicians, legislation, everything. Everything is going to be upended of what's happening here in the United States of America because we're doing it illegally. They have no fear. Do you know how you deal with somebody that don't have no fear? You can't. You can't deal with somebody that don't have fear. That's why God speak about fear being the beginning of righteousness. If you don't have anything that's stopping you from going all the way to the left, and I'm not saying left when I'm saying like liberals or anything like that, but if you don't have any fear when it comes to you going all the way towards whatever it is, like if you just you stuff somebody inside of a duffel bag, it's it. You can't negotiate with that. What you gonna do? Convince them? Hey man, don't stuff me inside of a duffel bag in my own apartment and then come here and live here and have a good time. You can't fight somebody that got a terrorist mentality. You don't even know who's coming over here. You have zero understanding of what you're about to deal with, but you dealing with it, and it's happening to you in real time.
It came as a complete shock and surprise, I didn't even know.
Gene Pompey is the building superintendent.
Shout out to Rick Rowe.
Surveillance video shows Vittel getting in the elevator and going up to her apartment on the 19th floor. A friend called to make a wellness check, but there was no answer.
So I went up, knocked on the door. It was just only the dog barking.
Shortly afterwards, the victim's son and two in-laws arrived to Vittel's apartment. When police got there, Vittel's lifeless body was found in the closet, stashed inside a duffel bag. Investigators claim she was beaten to death.
When I came into work, there was an ambulance here and one cop car.
Police allege the squatters had been staying in Vittel's apartment for days, and when she returned, the pair killed her and took off in her SUV. Security cameras captured the suspects coming in on Sunday and leaving Tuesday afternoon, the same day Vittel was last seen. It's believed that they drove her car across the George Washington Bridge into New Jersey and then into Pennsylvania, where they crashed the vehicle.
Whose desk does this land on? Because somebody has to take responsibility for this. She get to her apartment, go up to the 19th floor, discover that some illegal migrants are squatting in her apartment. They beat her to death, stuff her in a closet inside of a duffel bag, steal her car, drive it to a different state, and then disappear. Whoosh. Crash the car and vanish. You can't make this up. This is real life. Can you imagine going over there to discover your mother when you do a wellness check is stuffed inside of a duffel bag, and this is days later after the migrants had already escaped and crashed your vehicle in a whole other state? They ain't released no video, no nothing. So then you go back to Chicago, New York, Denver, LA, Atlanta, all of these people who welcomed them in, and they remember when Eric Adams was welcoming migrants in, and he was saying, listen, we are a sanctuary city, and they was getting off the bus and he was tooting his horn, and he was playing the music, Hercules, 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 Hercules. Remember when he was doing that? Does he then get held responsible for this? Or is it just another number? Another social security number that could just be reissued at some point later over into a migrant. What if another migrant wind up getting that social security number at some time in the future? Jesus Christ. Who gets held responsible for letting people in? Is it Biden? Is it Eric Adams? Is it Kamala Harris? Who gets paid for keeping their mouth shut?
It's scary when something like this happens. You always expect it to happen somewhere else and not in your own neighborhood.
Republican State Assemblyman Jake Blumenkrantz has filed a bill that would make it easier for homeowners to remove squatters from their properties. Under New York state law, people who claim their tenants can't be arrested for trespassing. That also means homeowners can't change the locks, get rid of their stuff, or shut off the electricity.
This is insane.
The bill would allow police to intervene and make arrests instead of forcing homeowners into an arduous court process. Yeah, and speaking of tenants' rights, a lot of states do give tenants the upper hand. Now, this bill states that tenants do not include squatters and give people rights after 45 days rather than the current 30 days, considering most short-term rentals here in New York City require the tenant, to stay for at least a month.
So now you got 45 days instead of 30 days. Jesus Christ. Oh, Lord, have mercy. This is insane.
To a developing story in Kips Bay in Manhattan and another grisly murder. Police say 2 alleged squatters killed a mother and hid her body in a duffel bag in an apartment.
CBS 2's Allie Bauman reports those suspects are now on the run and may be in Pennsylvania.
It was like this.
This is the apartment closet where 52-year-old Nadia Vitel's body was found last week, stuffed in a duffel bag while her dog barked in the living room.
I've always believed that no one had moved in.
Jean Pompey is the superintendent here at 206 East 31st Street. He went looking for Vitel's with her son, who at the time feared her missing.
They had called me and told me they haven't heard from her.
Police sources tell us investigators have identified 2 people who may have been squatting in that apartment and who they believe beat Vitel's to death before stealing her car from the street and fleeing to Pennsylvania, where they later got into a car accident. CBS 2 spoke to Vitel's back in 2021 as she helped her son Michael get his business off the ground from her Long Island garage.
I kind of gave in into this. The original thought was no way.
Monday, Michael eulogized his mother at her funeral.
That's crazy. That's crazy that they was even able to pull up the old footage of this woman. So this woman who was a mother, paid her taxes, helping her son get the business off the ground. And then the same son that was on the news previously is now speaking at her funeral.
As much as I rarely admitted it, because it hurt me in my stomach, I knew she was always right.
Yo, I would go straight up Robert McCall. I try to, because I always tell guys a lot of times, hey, don't react based off of emotions. I try to imagine and put myself in the shoes of what I would do if something like this happened to me. And I would just go straight up Robert McCall. A lot of people, the Equalizer, I would just go dark. I try to not imagine just completely crashing out because there would be nothing else for me to be focused on. You know what I'm saying? If you go Law Abiding Citizen, have you ever seen that movie Law Abiding Citizen? It's one of my favorite movies. I don't like how the movie ended. I think that it could have been an A+ movie if it would have ended right. But Law Abiding Citizen with Jamie Foxx in it, that's one of the first movies that I seen people actually rooting for the guy that was supposed to be portrayed as the criminal. I just can't imagine, man. I cannot imagine how to control yourself and even be able to have a public funeral in the first place.
She was always reliable, and she was always there.
Sources tell us that investigators believe Vitell's may have been moving herself or someone else into this Kips Bay apartment in the building where her late mother lived. They do not believe Vitell's knew the squatters, who were told came in while she was tidying the apartment.
Unfortunately, there are so many horrible cases because you create serious confrontation. Because just imagine you enter your own home to find people there.
State Assemblyman Jake Blumenkranz sponsors a bill to weaken some of the so-called squatters' rights in New York. Currently, squatters may be legally considered tenants after 30 days in a unit.
There is virtually no recourse for when someone is gaming
Who
the
wrote
system
this
here.
law?
So all this
Who
does
wrote
is
this
remove
law?
the loophole and remove those who are trying to use the system.
Sources tell us the suspects in Vitell's case were last seen trying to buy a used car in Pennsylvania dealerships. Anyone with information on their whereabouts is asked to call the NYPD. In Kips.
Hey, New York is hell at this point. New York is hell. We got to find a different place to have our meetup. I don't know if I can have a meetup in New York at this point. I have a meetup every year in New York. New York is literally hell. It's a hellhole. Gosh.